Flamingzard here, back at it again, and once again, today, people, today, I decided to do another deck profile, and this time for a new deck of mine that I didn't showcase in here, because I was updating on it privately, like off camera, and I was able to upgrade it to almost where how I want it to be. It's just one more change that has to be made for it, and the card for it is on its way, and I will explain which card I'm going to be replacing from the one that's in this deck for the other for in this library for the other, because the other one it's just more preferred and it makes it more easier to me. So all right, this is my Izzet Combo build. The commander for it is the Locust God. Most people know it, but for those who don't know it, Locust God is a 6 mana 4/4 with flying, and whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. You pay 2 and a red, blue and a red to draw a card, and discard a card. When Locust God dies, you return it to the owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a really good commander for any Izzet deck, in my opinion, because it just runs really good for it. And right now, we're going to be starting up on the lands, because in my opinion, lands just makes it easier for deck profiling. So tips are for people that actually want to do deck profile uploads for YouTube. That's just my tip. Go for the lands first, because it's the easier evacuation and it doesn't take too long. So for the lands, we have the command tower for the first one. Then the Warrior Quarry Tower, highly needed for any Izzet deck, especially for this build. If you guys wanted to build it the way that I'm doing it, then follow it from this. I highly recommend it, because this deck can easily just have your hand more than 7 cards in hand, and with Quarry Tower, you can easily have no maximum hand size and just keep them all the counter spells and all the shenanigans. Next up is the Thespian Stage. Just a good one to just make a copy of, like, Izzet Borderwork, which is the land that it will be showcasing in here. Temple of the False God, Emergence Zone, really good, kind of like your mini, like a Del Ori, but for your instants and but for your spells, only for the turn that they would have flash. Really good card in my opinion. Just a land that's more safer than the Del Ori for the artifact to pay 4 for it. You could just play this as a land and you can do that. You can go for both, but not to my style. That I'm trying to make this deck to not be CEDH. So after this one change, the deck is just going to be the deck profile will be uploaded again, but as the final cut for it. Next up is the Evolving Wild and Terramorphic Expanse. Both of them are just good because of the basic land search, so you can easily be able to ramp a little bit more for Izzets, because not that many Izzet cards actually have ramp, but only card draw shenanigan. But that's only it. Swiftwater Clips, tap it into a gain 1 life, enters tapped, and when it enters, you gain 1 life in that sense. Highland Lake, just good in my opinion for it. And then Izzet Borderwork. Now, the reason why Izzet Borderwork, besides being that it can tap for 2 mana, is because with the Thespian Stage, you pay the 2 and copy the Izzet Borderwork, so you have 4 mana addition instead of 1. Even though you can tap it for 1 colorless and rechange the copy, but still, it helps out. Onward to the basic lands, having a bunch of islands, because in Izzets, the most knowledge that most people would go for the logic is they go for more of the blues than reds, instead of trying to make that balance for the color wise. Other ones need the other without the can't do the other without the other for the clans. So it's basically the only one that prefers more of blue than red. And same thing for the mountains, just to be easy on that. Now onward to the creatures, and this is only my choice for these certain ones, and You don't have to get like every single card in his. It's just what I have in my possession to make it happen. So for the creatures, we have Demonic Wall and Planeswalkers as well. I'm still missing the one for the Planeswalker, but I'll explain that. Demonic Wall, real good to return an instant or sorcery card from the grave to the hand. Spellkeeper weird, same way for it, but you pay 2 to sacrifice him. So it's not bad. So you can just like just have a like block and then in response pay the 2, tap it, sacrifice, and just get the instance of sorcery and preventing combat damage from being dealt if your opponent's attacking you with one creature. Arcanomancer, real good to return instance of sorcery. Oni spell adapt, really good in my opinion, because just to pay 3 mana to tap it, you can play an instance of sorcery for free. Without paying its mana cost. So you can basically cast your instance of sorceries for free if there are really big high spells. So you can just not worry too much about it. Seagate Oracle, just a good wizard to look at the top 2, put 1 card into the hand and the other on the bottom. Next up we have Amuse Drake, which whenever enters the battlefield, draw a card. So you basically just do draw a card and add more cards in the hand for the shenanigans. Leapfrog, just good because it gives itself flying as long as you cast an instant sorcery spell on the same turn. That is available after the summoning sickness. Real good. Pass wall adapt. Good to just pay 2 in a blue. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Real good to make your Locust God or any of your other creatures unblockable to make it easier for yourself. Next up is Flip the Lost. Really good in my opinion because when it enters, draw a card. Usually you don't have to worry about if it entered from a library or was cast from a library, you draw 2 cards instead. Usually you don't want to do that for this build because all you need is just a card draw. You don't need like the extra card draw shenanigan to go too much because there's only a 1 combo in here that goes well for it. But for those who are Izzet fans or have the knowledge of Izzets, they would already know that one infinite combo loop. And it is in this deck, but I don't have the Braylon for the combo because I really don't like it. Because it just makes it too dirty. Like, you would have to wait until your end step to discarding down to hand size and just keep repeatably doing that, and it just gets annoying. It just gets really annoying, and I really don't like it that way. I prefer to just play the instance of sorcery spell, draw a card from it, and then just repeat that loop. Because then it's like, okay, I played my 1 spell, I draw a card on it, even if you counter it, it's GG. It's a more strategized way. Next up, a Laboratory Maniac, really good. It's just the only win con that I would use for the no cards in the library shenanigans. So it is like that. Next up we have Gunner Snipe. Really good in my opinion. Main staple for like any mono red or any colors with red that relies heavily on instance of sorcery spells, because Gunner Snipe enters, deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you can keep on playing spells until you to lower your opponent's life totals to possibly low enough for you to finish them off. Possibly. Next up, Magus of the Wheel. Good in my opinion for the Wheel Fortune effect, and then Erratic Cyclops. Whenever you cast it into a sorcery spell, it gets +X/+0 till the end of turn, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So each time you play an instance of sorcery spell, it still gets the it gets +X/+0, so equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So you can just keep playing the spells, make them bigger, and deal big damage. And he has trample, so it will be hard to go over unless if they have the target removal for it. Next up is the 2 for the Nimbus Perun and the Nimbus Firemind. Obvious surprise, not that surprising for the Nimbus to come out. Perfect for it. Next up, Jorian Ruined Diver. Good in my opinion, because whenever you cast a second spell, each turn, draw a card. And that includes during your opponent's turn, because you can be like, oh, I play my second spell during your turn. Cast it. Cast the second spell. Oh, I get to draw a card. End step. Oh, my next opponent. I'll play this spell and then play the second one and draw a card. And you repeat that process, and you just keep on drawing cards. And with the Nimbus and Perun, it's just really good for it. With the Nimbus, every time you draw, like I said, every time you draw a card, you deal 1 damage to target, to any target, so you can deal 1 damage to a creature or a player. And it's a good combo with Jorian, Ruin Diver for that. It's kind of a slower start for that process, but it's just real good combo that isn't like infinite loopy. Next up, a Rao Static Caster. And yes, this is basically with Izzet's a Rao family and Nimbus a tribal build. Rao Static Caster, just good whenever it attacks. If you control a Rao Planeswalker, it gets +1/+0 for each card in your hand until the end of the turn. And it has trample, so it will do that. Crackling Drake, really main staple for any Izzet. Just every time you play it, every time an instant sorcery is in your graveyard exiled, it gets power equal to it. And when it enters, draw a card. Not that many people realize about the second ability, because they usually forget it, which I do forget it as well, so it's not surprising. We Dragonauts, real good. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, it gets +2/+0 till the end of the turn. And it makes itself a 3/3 with flying, and you could just keep on activating your instant sorcery spells, increase, and just do all that. Goblin Electromancer. Really good for any main staple for the Izzets, because it just makes your instant sorcery spells cost 1 less. And that includes on your counter spells, so you can make them really cheap. It's like you don't really need a Brawl for it. Even though, yes, you could use a Brawl. Even though, yes, you could use a Brawl to cheapen the compliance for it. But in my opinion, if you're going to be adding Brawl in it, then you're going to have like a bunch of counter spells, more than the average count, which is normally 10. So if you have more of it, then you can just do all that. Now for the Planeswalkers, first one of a non-Rao, and it's the only non-Rao in this, it's Narset, part of Reveals. It's just annoying Planeswalker that it prevents your opponents from drawing more than 1 card, and makes the opponent, if you wheel, then you can be like, okay, so you guys ain't going to be drawing. You're only going to be drawing 1 card. I'm going to be drawing 7 more, and refresh my hand, having more of them tokens, and just potentially be able to possibly draw a bunch of more until y'all can't draw that much. Rao, Caller of Storms, just really good. Really good Planeswalker to +1, draw a card, -2 to deal 3, divided of any choosing 1 to 2, 1, 2, or 3 targets. Ultimate to -7 to draw 7 cards and deal 7 damage to each creature opponent controls. Real good in that opinion. Rao Storm Conduit. Every time you cast an instant sorcery spell, it includes on the copy, so it'll deal 1 damage to the target opponent or Planeswalker, +2 to scry 1, -2 the next instant sorcery you cast. It makes a copy. Just good for that. And Rao Sarek, +1 to tap a permanent and untap another permanent. So you can be like, oh, I'll tap it your only defense creature while I untap it in my Soul Ring, for example. So yeah, it helps out for that. Now on to the sorceries, which we do have is a very interesting takeout for the sorceries. We have Timemost Empathy, Scry 4, draw 2 cards. Treasure's Cruise, Delve, it has the Delve, and you can draw 3 cards. Next up, Faithless Looting, draw 2 cards, then discard 2, flash it back, and you can do all that. Tormenting Voice, discard a card, and then draw 2. Brass's Bounty, just to each land you control, you get a bunch of treasure tokens equaling to that amount. So if you tap for 7, you basically get like 7 treasures. So it basically makes it look like you cast your sorcery for free. It helps out in that sense. Mana Geyser, just a good red spell for any red deck that has like bigger spells, or you just want to cast more stuff. Mana Geyser is your one for that. Just to have more red mana and do all that. Finale of Promise. You can make a copy. You can cast it up to 1 instant or sorcery. Instant or sorcery card from your graveyard with a converted mana cost X or less, without paying its mana cost. If a card will be this way, it will be exiled instead of being put into the graveyard. 10 or more. Copy those spells twice, and choosing new target copies for it. Demolish to destroy a target artifact or a land. It's just added in there to be like, okay, you really want to be an a-hole to me? Okay, I'll play this. I'll play Demolish and destroy your land. So you won't have an additional lands to support for yourself. Bond of Passion. Just good to gain control of a target creature, untap it, gain haste, and deals 2 damage to any other target. So it helps out for that. Next up, Epic Experiment. Just a good instant spell that you can just exile. You can exile the top X card to the from your library and play an instant sorcery for free. The converted mana cost X or less. Play it for free, then put in all the cards exiled or weren't cast into the grave, so you can pile up more of the instants of sorceries in the graveyard for Crackling Drake to get stronger. And there's other reasons for it. Beacon Bolt, really good. Deals damage to a target creature equaling to the number of instances of sorceries that you own exiled in your graveyard. And you can play it from your graveyard to exile it for the jumpstart. Invade the city. It's just added in there to create a body token for it. So that way you can be like, okay, now I got this many instances of sorceries. Invade the city. And amass 10. Next, now it's for the instance, and it will be going on the counter spells. You guys don't have to get these exact counter spells, but there are a couple that there are certain ones I do highly recommend for you to have, especially for the Izzet deck. Main one, this is the main one that you definitely want to have, is Rewind to pay for counter target spell and then untapping the 4 lands, so you basically cast a for free counter spell. Highly recommended of a counter spell. Spell Pierce. It's up to you, but if you want to run that or not. Negate is just the ones that is good for it that you would need. The spell counters a targeted instant spell, so I don't see this being played that much, but it's really good that it could be like, okay, you're countering my counter, then the spell countering your counter. And it creates that chain loop and everything. Next spell. This is a new, well, it is an old card from Urza's Saga, but you don't have to run it. And it's Powersync. Just to counter a target spell unless its caster pays an additional X if he or she does not. Tap all mana to producing lands that player controls and remove all mana from his or her mana pool. So if they have like floating mana, it's gone, and it basically taps the land. So I think Powersync is a very underrated counter spell that not that many people run, but it is good nonetheless. Next up, it is Sinvocate. Counter spell, counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Counter this way, exile and instead being put into the owner's graveyard. It's just that kind of a good counter spell. Not what I would recommend as well, because there's better ones, but it helps out because you can be like, okay, you have that many tapped lands. Let's say the opponent has like 4 tapped lands and you're able to pay 5, pay 6, so you can go like blue and then casting 5 and casting a Syndicate, X equaling to 5. So it makes it easier for your spell to counter their opponents, the higher chance for it. Highly recommended main staple for the somewhat of a counter spell, Narset's Reversal. I'm not sure to call this the main counter spell needed, but it is the good blue staple that you will need. Copy the target instant sorcery spell to return to the owner's hand and choose to do copy. So it's like a counter in a way, but it's just different. Next up, Brainstorm. Draw 3, put 2 back on top. 2 cards from your hand on top, so it's not that bad. Opportunity, target player draws 4. Just a good spell that you can be like, okay, I'll be making myself to draw 4 more. Chemist's Insight to draw 2 cards and jumpstart it so you can play it from the grave, discarding the card and paying the 4. And draw 2 more cards, exile it afterwards. Cyclonic Rift, main high staple for any deck that runs blue in it. That whenever it's mono blue or Simic, Izzet, Timur, it's a main staple for Espers, Demir. It's basically a main staple for any mono blue, for any blue deck, no matter what it is. Just to return to a single target permanent or overload it to return all permanents. Laser Top Plating just gives you and your permanents hexproof. Rouse the Sparrow. If you don't have Rowl Call or the Storm in hand, then you can bounce a creature to your hand, bounce a creature to the owner's hand, and then search your library for it. Next up, it's Bolt Bend. Spell that it can be cost 3 less to cast if you control a creature 4 or greater. Change the target of a target spell or ability with a single target. So if you have like a Locust God or a Nimbus out, or any creature that is 4 or greater, you could just pay this for a red. And it's just that good. And then changes the target. It's like a better version of Misdirection, but not the best. But it's worth it. Chaos Warp. You guys know what a Chaos Warp does. I really don't need to explain it for that. Counterflux, just a count, can't be countered by spells or abilities, and counters the target spell you don't control. Or you could just be an a-hole and be like, okay, just let all that happen. Overload it and counter all of that. Sonic Assault, just to tap a creature and deals 2 damage to the tapped creature, and it has Jumpstart, so you can do that from the grave. Onward to the artifacts. There's not that many artifacts in here, but 4 out of the 5 of them are the main staples for the Izzet decks that I highly recommend. Main staples, Skull Clamp for the Locust God build. Unless you're doing the Nimbus, then you really don't need Skull Clamp. Unless you add Locust God into your deck, then you won't have to. Unless if you add Nimbus in your library, then you could be like, okay, I'll just add Skull Clamp into it. Soul Rain, main staple for any commander deck. Traveler's Amulet, not highly recommended, but gives you the search for basic lands. Highly recommended Izzet Signet, and Dragon's Claw. Main staple for any red build. Just so whenever a player casts a red spell, you gain 1 life. And it doesn't have to be you, because it'd be like, okay, oh, you're playing red? Let's be friends. Let's be besties, but I gain life. So you'll be helping me out. Finally, for the enchantments, everyone knows it. Curiosity for the Nimbus Combo, Nimbus Curiosity combo loop for it. Burning Vengeance, just good at whenever a spell is casted from the grave, deals 2 damage to a target creature or player. Fever Visions, main staple for any Izzet deck, because you could be like, okay, draw additional cards, and for the opponents, if they have 4 or more cards in their library, then take 2 more damage. And now for the final enchantment, and this one is definitely going to be replaced for another, and it's 1,000-Year Storm. It's just high cost for it, and it only works if you cast more than one instant sorcery spell. But the main card that's going to be replacing 1,000-Year Storm is Swarm Intelligence. Swarm Intelligence basically just makes, every time you cast an instant sorcery spell, it copies it automatically. It doesn't need to be like every time you cast an instant sorcery spell during this turn, you can make that many copies. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like it. Comment below for any suggestions that you could think of, or any other deck profile, or any other decks that you guys want to see completely built from me. Let me know, and hope you guys have a great day. Flamingzard here. I'm out.